This is Jim Williams with your Hurricane City Tropical Update video for August 13th, 9:30 a.m. What you're looking at is the tracking map on the front page of hurricanecity.com, and we have a very active tropical Atlantic right now. We have newly formed Tropical Storm Franklin moving out into the open Atlantic. This will not be a factor for anybody other than shipping. We have Invest 94L south-southeast of Bermuda, Invest 92L east-northeast of the northern Leeward Islands, and Invest 93L out in the East Atlantic. That's cruising quickly off to the west, so we'll get to all these features. But first of all, I want to mention that Franklin up here is really the non-story, so we're not going to talk too much about Franklin. If you want information on Franklin, you click on Franklin right below the tracking chart, and it'll give you all the details on that system. Our current feature remains Grand Bahama Island, as they were affected by Tropical Depression Emily last weekend. At this time, Emily was moving through the northwest Bahamas as a tropical depression, almost a tropical storm at that point. But Invest 93L may have the same type of markings as Emily, and we'll get to that in just a minute. We also have the updated thumbnails down here focused on Invest 92L, because Invest 92L may end up being the first of these systems to affect land, and that would be Bermuda. So let's get to each one of these systems and start out. First of all, let's talk about Invest 92L. Here's the floater loop visible on this system, and you can see that there's a general rotation out here, but I'm going to get to a water vapor loop in just a minute and explain why these systems are all very poorly organized. But if there's any center of circulation on this system, it's probably down here somewhere in this area right here. And of course, here's the island of Guadeloupe down here, and the northern Leeward Islands, Martinique down in here. So this system is well northeast of these islands, not going to affect them. But Bermuda is up in this direction here, and 92L may come very close to Bermuda, and that's why we're continuing to feature the thumbnails on 92L, and may switch our current featured city to Bermuda if this situation develops and the system heads towards Bermuda. But that's up in the air right now because these systems are very poorly organized, and of course, if they do not develop into anything, we're going to focus on 93L, which could be the one that affects the United States down the road, as well as the Caribbean. So let's get to some of our images here, and first of all, here are the models on Invest 92L. And again, the thumbs are focused on 92L because they're tightly clustered over the island of Bermuda right here. As a tropical storm, the Euro, not the Euro, the GFS, the BAM, and the No Gaps models all take this system just over Bermuda, with the Canadian out here to the left of Bermuda. But they all keep this as a tropical storm. But I'm questioning whether this is ever going to become a tropical storm, and I'll show you the reasons why for that in just a minute. But there is a possibility for that, and this could go one of either two ways. We could end up having possibly 2 or 3 named storms over the next several days, or we could end up with just Franklin, and that's it. And of course, 93L could become our next named storm, Gert, or 92L could become Gert. And we'll just have to see what happens with the naming of these systems. But I think these systems out here southeast of Bermuda are in bad shape, and they may never develop. But let's go ahead with our next image here, and this is the models on 93L. This is the system out in the East Atlantic, cruising off to the west, and the GFDL has it as approaching Category 1 strength, strong tropical storm in the eastern Caribbean Sea, as well as the GFS. BAM models want to take it a little bit further north towards Puerto Rico, so we're going to watch for that. But we have a long time to watch this. But the people in the islands need to pay close attention to 93L. It's poorly organized, but it could ramp up once it gets a little bit further west here. Now here's the Euro, and this was the darling model of Tropical Storm Emily. And the Euro, I know there's really nothing to see here on the map, but this is going out Thursday, August 18th, and it has this washing out right here over Hispaniola. And it did the same exact thing with Emily. Last week, it predicted the same exact thing, that Emily would come in through the Caribbean here, affect the Greater Antilles, and basically disintegrate over land. But what happened was Emily snuck through a little piece of it, and it redeveloped into a tropical depression and then headed on out. But interestingly, this model here, the Euro, shows similar situation where it tries to develop a little bit in the Caribbean and then gets washed out here and then makes a little bit of comeback towards Florida and then kind of hooks on up the coast. So we'll have to watch the Euro and see what happens with this. Right now, the only long-range model that's really showing 93L making it into the Gulf of Mexico is the GFS. Has it coming in southerly like this, and then right up into the west coast of Florida and the Panhandle. So we'll be watching for that as well. But a long way to go on 93L. A lot of things could happen. This is the big thing right here, is the Greater Antilles destroying this system and or dry air, which I will get to that in just a second. Now here is the wind shear, current wind shear situation in the Atlantic Basin, and we have, of course, Franklin up here, moving out to sea, and we have Invest 94L, which is right around here, and then we have Invest 92L, which is back in here, and the orange is on the map indicate very high wind shear out of the west, blowing the tops off of Invest 92L, which I showed you on that invisible loop just a few minutes ago. 94L over here is also caught up not only in dry air but in a westerly wind shear situation. So 94L is supposed to pass east of Bermuda, head on out. 92L may take a little bit more of a southerly route here and then turn north and head on out on the backside of that high pressure ridge. But the question is, how much is this system going to develop? Well, here's the situation with the dry air. This is the LSU water vapor loop, and the reason I like using this image is the dark greens. The greens you see on the map here are dry air, and we have a lot of dry air out there. Let's take a look. First of all, again, Invest 94L is right there on the backside of a upper level low. You see the upper level low spinning right here, so that's a very unfavorable situation. And then we have 92L right back in here, and that's wrapped in another upper level low right here that's also has dry air wrapped in it. So both of these systems are going to be tangling with upper level lows and dry air as they head up here and head on out. So I don't think either one of these systems really has much of a shot. Now, what could happen is the dry air may move out away from these systems and maybe allow 92L to briefly develop as it heads toward Bermuda. I don't think we're going to see much more than tropical storm out of this. But look back here. Here is 93L. Back in here, also wrapped up in dry air back here. There's a whole swath of dry air, Saharan air layer, moving into the system and wrapping in, and that's why the system has no convection. In fact, the long-range models are indicating 93L might not develop at all, because this blob of dry air is associated, it's going to be right behind that, and dry air is going to be getting pulled into the system constantly as it moves into the Caribbean and through the Greater Antilles. So this system may really struggle to become anything, not to mention the fact that this is a very broad circulation, 93L out here. It's a very large rotating area here, so it's going to take a while to consolidate. You got dry air out in front of it. But as far as wind shear, it's pretty light down in the Caribbean. That wind shear should not be a factor with 93L, but all this dry air out here may be an inhibiting factor for this system to really get cranked up. We'll have to watch it. I think that's it for our images. Anyway, let's go back to Hurricane City, and again, focus on the let you know that we are focused on 92L, and we may change that to 93L if 92L never develops or materializes in anything, and then our focus will turn to 93L. So that's about it for now. We'll be back with another update video later in the weekend, maybe on Sunday evening, and see if we have any more named storms out there, what the potential is for all these systems. And that's about it for now. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.